Hello and welcome to Crosspoint Church's podcast Behind the Point. My name is Adam Robertson, and today we are talking about DFL, and I have three ladies joining me. If you'll introduce yourself.
I'm Christina Roberts.
Tara Johnson.
And Haley Beeler.
So you guys went to DFL last week. What was that like?
Exhausting a little bit, but a great time, and we were fed. One of the things when you serve in ministry, like all of us do, it is really important, I think, to get away and to go somewhere where you are fed. You don't have any responsibilities, but God can speak into your life. And so this was my 10th year. I always make a point to go because it actually is kind of life-changing for me. God speaks something new to me every time.
What do they do at DFL?
Lots of worship. Well, in our conference, there were 4,000 women, all worshiping together. Lots of amazing production, of course, out of James River. They just have, this amazing opening every night that leads you into worship. And then the level of speakers that they bring in is just... It's just mind-blowing,
all over the world.
From all over the world, yeah. Every year they just blow your mind with more, better, bigger, better.
And we're so fortunate because it's just, 45 minutes away from us to have. A lot of people travel, to other states, and we've got that right there. So.
And the speakers, even 2 or 3 of them talked when they got up this week about how privileged we are to have this level of conference in our area. These are people that do travel the world, that are in all kinds of conferences, and they, just everything that is done for us at that conference, that I don't even know how to explain it, but it's
they make you feel special.
They make you feel special. They make you feel like you are part, DFL is designed for life. Well, we have a designed sisterhood, from being together all these years, and we meet different nights throughout the year. We are a sisterhood, and when you go back there, you feel like you're a part, that you belong there.
And it's all different denominations. It's from churches all over this area. And we really feel, I think, united when we're there together. We don't think about any differences. We're just, there
and
together.
all ages.
Right.
You might have a 12-year-old girl and an 80-year-old lady. And I'm always so amazed by those older ladies and their heart. And you can just see them worshiping, and still loving. And they encourage me.
We went to the church location. There were 4,000 women there. The week before, they were at JQH, and they had somewhere close to 8,000. But, I think when you're all singing together at one time and you're all raising your hands and just the Spirit of God that comes upon every one of us, there was a particular time that we were singing How Great Thou Art. And we were sitting up higher, so we had a really good view of everyone. And literally everyone has their hands raised, singing at the top of their lungs. And, it just felt like a little glimpse of what heaven's going to be one day. You totally feel connected.
Yes, definitely that. And also, when the speakers ask a question, sometimes they'll say, how many of you had a hard time getting here? How many of you didn't have a babysitter? How many of you had who had all of these things? And when all these women are shaking their head, yes, absolutely, that is me. You kind of, sometimes we can beat ourselves up and we feel a little defeated when we get there, or I do, I'll speak for myself. I can feel that way, but sometimes, through the conference, there's always something that reminds me that all of us as ladies, we have the same struggles. We all have the same things going on day to day, and we're connected in that way. We're not alone in our struggles. We're not alone in our trials, and it just makes you feel better that you're not the only one.
They're very real.
They're very real.
And the speakers will, admit to their flaws, and we'll all laugh at each other because that's how it is.
That's just life.
We're all still figuring this out.
Yeah, it's just life.
And Haley, how many years have you gone?
This was my first year that I got to attend all of the sessions. I think I've only maybe once or twice before.
Okay. Do you feel connected even though maybe you're on the younger end of the spectrum?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like Christina said, there's women of like all ages and people from all like different walks of life too. So I feel like there's women, newlyweds just like me, and I had a couple of coworkers were there. So like when I go back to work this week, we can like feed off of each other and talk about our experiences, and I think that's really cool.
But I definitely think it helps me. It is an encouragement to me to keep going, keep on keeping on, because sometimes by the time it gets all the way back around to October, I might be, a little weary, I was a little tired, and it is that motivation that I need, especially to get excited about Christmas and things that I'm going to do here at the church, and inspired by their level of creativity. It is unbelievable. I think it's very encouraging.
So you're a creative person, Christina, and I hear from your looking back on it that you pull away some of the creative elements. But what about you, Tara? What's something that you pull away from it?
To pull off an event like this, they have to have a crazy amount of volunteers. I mean, there are volunteers in the parking lot. There are volunteers at every door. And I just think, to accomplish the vision and the dream that Debbie Lindell has, she can't do that by herself. And, we as volunteers need to be encouraged to keep going, to see the mission go forward. There are things that this church wants to accomplish, and if we don't all keep working and doing our part, those things are not going to get accomplished. I like what I listened a little bit to the last session online yesterday, and Robert said, I don't want to talk to the girl here at DFL today. I want to talk to you guys next Thursday. I want to talk about when you wake up and it's been almost a week. Are you still hanging on? Are you still able to worship in the way that you did here today? Are you still in the Word like we have been for these days? Are you able to carry it through?
Okay, so with Robert Madu, he preached on being aware of God's authority.
Yes.
So what's something that you pull away from that message with that theme?
He talked about how it wasn't our level of faith, because it talks in the Bible about how if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, that's all that you really need to make, but that we struggle with realizing God's power and authority, and trusting in that. And so it was just a different way for me to think about it. I'd never heard that perspective before.
Right. He talked about, Jairus knew he needed Jesus to come to his daughter. He wanted him to come. He needed him to see her and touch her. But the woman in the crowd that just touched his garment knew that if she could just get there to him, the power was there, that all she had to do was accept it. Mm-hmm. That authority that he had. And he knew, of all the people that were touching him, he knew who was there that was believing that he had that authority to take care of her issue. I think sometimes we underestimate, and when we ask for things, we underestimate that he is in authority over it all, and the answer may not look like we thought it was going to, but it's still the answer. He is still the authority.
Also with DFL, we had one speaker talk about the difference between a battlefield and a balcony. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, she was talking about the story of David and Bathsheba, which she said, this is a strange story for me to share at a women's conference. But she said that she was talking about why was David there. And she said, if you go back in the scripture, that it says that in the springtime, when kings go to war, David was on the balcony. And she said, David was not where he was supposed to be, and he'd forgotten who he was. And that caused that incident. If he had remembered that he was a king and where he should be, that the battlefield, that instance would have never happened. And she related it also, in people's lives. She said, if you, as a wife, if you have, your ex-boyfriend's number in your phone, she said that's kind of like being on the balcony. If that wasn't in your phone, then no consequence could happen from that. And someone said something about consequences. They said you can choose your.
You can always choose your choice, but you can never choose the consequences. You can make your choice, but you can't choose the consequences. So he made the choice to be on the balcony instead of where he was supposed to be, and he suffered huge consequences. She also said, was it her that said something about, you just can't live your life on a marathon of Netflix or something like that. In other words, you can't just go through life, going to work, coming home, doing your routine. We're all supposed to be on the battlefield. We're supposed to be battling.
Right. Which sometimes we think of battling as a negative thing. And really this last year, as I've kind of dealt with an injury and all of that, and I began to see the battle as an active thing that we are doing, where we are not giving up. We're showing up every day. We're serving. We're praising, and we have just that attitude that we're going to keep battling until we make it. Mm-hmm. So.
And battling, I took it kind of as also battling for others. They talked a lot about having your eyes wide open. That was kind of the theme of the conference. But seeing that girl that's struggling, or seeing a coworker that needs you to come along beside them, or a family member, just we have to battle. We have to battle for our families. If we have to battle in prayer, we have to work to see every day what would you have for me today, God?
Because a lot of times our eyes, and I've struggled with this, my eyes are on myself, my circumstances, my issue, and when your focus is just on you, you don't see the opportunities, you don't see these people who need a word or encouragement, or where you can make a difference.
And even at conference, this is terrible to say, but like when you have to stand in that line, or when you stand in the line, and my attitude during that time is not great. And then when you get in and seats are roped off and you're not allowed to sit down, that like I really struggle with my response in times like that, because I feel like I don't always have the right attitude. And boy, then we would get into the message and get into worship, and I would get kind of put back in my place a little bit about why am I actually here? What am I doing here? It's not about
your comfort.
It's not about my comfort at all. Yeah. So
that makes me think kind of like what Bianca talked about. The blind man, Jesus came to him and said, "What do you want me to do?" And he said, "I want to see." And like she said, he didn't ask for a cane so he could stumble around. Like he knew that if he asked God that he could get his sight back, and that's what he asked for. So sometimes it's just knowing what you want and like actually asking God for it.
This is kind of unrelated, but there was a point in time when I don't know if it was Bianca or who it was, and she said, if Jesus were to walk by you right now, if Jesus were here, what's the one question, or what would you tell him that you wanted? If you could just tell him one thing. And, the first thing that came to my mind, and the thing that has kind of preoccupied me for months, is getting healed. And I thought of that, and then I thought, no. And then the next thing I thought about was was like a family member that has an illness that I'd like to be gone. And then I thought, if Jesus was standing right here and I could just ask for one thing, what is really important? And I thought, I need to ask for my loved ones and my family to come to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. That is the most important thing. And I think sometimes with things that we have going on, we lose that focus. And, am I as concerned about my family and my friends coming to that knowledge and thinking about how can I help, be a witness and be there for them so that one day it's an easy decision for them to make that. So that really was kind of eye-opening to me about what is really important.
And that is, obviously we all have loved ones that we want to come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And I think sometimes we do let our day-to-days get in the way of that. And I came away, like my biggest takeaway was, how much time are you spending with the Lord, talking to him about, I had a person in mind, that I would love to see their relationship with Christ, be restored and grow. So what am I doing though? Am I helping that? What am I doing in that cause? Yes, I pray for that person, but am I really praying? Am I really saying specifically, God, this is what I want. This is what I need from you, and you are going to have to do it. And am I willing to accept the way in which he chooses to do it? It would be, I don't want it to come to, some people have to go through some stuff to get there. And am I willing to see that person have to go through that in order to be back in that place with Christ where they need to be?
And sometimes it might even affect you. I've prayed a prayer before of Lord, whatever it takes. Well, when you pray that, be prepared.
Right.
Really.
Really.
But it's worth it.
It was heart changing and perspective changing. Just a real refocusing of what really is most important.
I'm just going to ask you each, what's something that you're going to walk away with? Something that you're going to carry with you for the next year?
Well, because of my injury, I had to sit through the whole 3 days, which as a worship leader, to have to sit during worship is extremely difficult. And at the beginning, I honestly was kind of feeling sorry for myself because I'm sitting in this chair. And I believe it was Bianca that talked about Paul and Silas being chained in shackles and worshiping in prison, which I've heard that story many, many times. But she was talking about praising in your shackles, which I have not been in prison, and I have, a wonderful support system. I'm not comparing it to that, but for me, sitting there while everyone else is standing up was kind of like being shackled. And the importance I got was just that you praise God where you are with a glad heart, not a woe is me that I'm going through this, but praising God for who he is. I went from being kind of sad at the beginning and tears flowing because I'm just not real happy where my physical life is right now. But as it went through, when the tears came, it was because I was thinking of all that Jesus has done for me, and just being amazed at his goodness and being with these other women that are all lifting him up at one time. And like she said, it's perspective changing. That was what really spoke to me about praising God where I am right now. and being content.
I will say Robert Madu, when he was preaching about Jesus going to Jairus' house and there were mockers there, people actually laughing at him, and he told them to get out. All of you need to get out. And he went on to talk about what are the things in your life that you may need to tell to get out of the way of what the Lord has for you. Like, maybe it has to do with how you spend your time, which we're not doing anything wrong. Coming home and having dinner and watching a show on TV isn't wrong, but maybe there's something better. Maybe there are things, attitudes, like I talked about, my attitude in that line, or when we didn't get our seats or whatever. Maybe I need to check my attitude and tell that to get out, get out of my head, get out of my life, so that I can focus and see what God really has for me.
That's literally what I was going to say. I'm not kidding. That was one of my favorite messages, and it's hard. Like I feel like the devil has like attacked me in brand new ways. I don't know. It's just all very eye-opening.
So we are pretty much out of time, but I do want to end with an invite. Would you guys recommend DFL to any ladies listening right now?
Yes, I would. Now, we always go ahead and sign up. If you don't buy it, there's lots of excuses. You can think, I really don't have time for that. I've got all this stuff going on. But if you do it the year before, as you're leaving conference, then you've already made that commitment and you've carved out that time that you're going to have with God.
You will be filled, encouraged, lots of fun. There's a lot of fun. It's just an amazing few days.
Definitely worth it. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram. We also upload a story before our podcast, so you can get involved in the conversation. Also, be making sure to check out our YouTube channel, where we upload content every single day. You have been listening to Behind the Point. My name is Adam Robertson. God bless.